She knocked on my door in the rain, then asked if she could stay forever. The knock came just as the storm reached its loudest, like the sky itself was trying to warn me that something or someone was about to change my life forever. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that come when we least expect them, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. You never know whose life a simple story might touch. The rain had been falling for hours, heavy and relentless, turning the quiet street outside my small house into a blur of gray. I had always liked rainy nights. They matched the silence inside me. Ever since my wife passed away 3 years ago, silence had become my closest companion. The house, once filled with laughter, now echoed with memories that refused to fade. I had learned to live with it, or at least pretend I had. That night I wasn't expecting anyone. No one ever came anymore. Friends had stopped visiting after the funeral, not out of cruelty, but because life moves on for everyone else. I stayed behind, stuck in a world that no longer felt like it belonged to me. The knock came again, louder this time. At first I thought I had imagined it, but then it came a third time, urgent, almost desperate. Something inside me stirred, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. I stood up slowly, my heart beating faster than it should have, and walked toward the door. When I opened it, the rain rushed in like a living thing, cold and sharp. And there she was. She stood on my doorstep, completely soaked, her hair clinging to her face, her clothes heavy with rain. But what struck me the most wasn't how she looked, it was her expression. She was smiling, not a weak or forced smile, but something real, almost peaceful, as if she had finally reached somewhere safe. For a moment we just looked at each other. I didn't recognize her. She wasn't someone from the neighborhood, and yet there was something strangely familiar about her presence. Like she had stepped out of a memory I couldn't fully recall. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. The way she stood there, shivering slightly but still holding onto that soft smile, told me everything I needed to know. She had nowhere else to go. I stepped aside without thinking and let her in. That single decision felt small at the time, but it was the moment everything began to change. Inside, the house felt different the moment she entered. The air shifted, the silence broke. I handed her a towel and pointed her toward the bathroom so she could dry off. I didn't ask questions, not yet. Something told me she wasn't ready to answer them. While she was inside, I stood in the living room, staring at the door I had just closed. My hands were still trembling slightly. I couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the sudden interruption of my routine, or maybe it was something deeper, something I had buried for too long. When she came back out, she looked different. Not because she was dry, but because the warmth of the house had softened her expression. She sat quietly on the couch, looking around as if she was trying to understand the space, trying to feel it. I made her some tea. It was the first time in years I had made tea for someone else. We sat there in silence for a while. It wasn't uncomfortable. In fact, it felt strangely natural, like we both understood that words could wait. Eventually, she told me just enough to make me understand. She had been moving from place to place, trying to find stability, but life had not been kind to her. She had lost things, important things, not just a home, but a sense of belonging. I didn't press further. Pain doesn't need to be explained to be understood. Days turned into weeks. At first, I told myself it was temporary. She would stay until she found somewhere else, and then things would go back to how they were, quiet, predictable, empty, but something unexpected happened. The house began to feel alive again. She would open the windows in the morning, letting fresh air in, even when I complained about the cold. She would hum softly while doing simple things, like making breakfast or cleaning up. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to fill the spaces that had been silent for so long. And then slowly she started to change me. I began waking up earlier, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I found myself fixing things around the house that I had ignored for years. I started cooking again, real meals, not just something quick to get through the day. It scared me at first, because with change comes the risk of loss. I had already lost too much. Letting someone in again felt dangerous. What if she left? What if this was just another temporary moment that would fade, leaving me even more broken than before? But every time I tried to create distance, she would do something small, something simple that pulled me back. Like the day she found an old photo of my wife and placed it carefully on the table, cleaned and framed. She didn't say anything about it. She just respected it. Or the time she noticed I hadn't been sleeping well and left a cup of tea by my bedside without a word. She didn't try to replace what I had lost. She simply helped me remember how to live with it. One evening, as the rain started again, soft this time, almost gentle, we found ourselves standing by the window together. It felt like a reflection of the night she first arrived, but everything was different now. I wasn't the same man who had opened the door that night. And she wasn't just a stranger anymore. There was a quiet understanding between us, something that didn't need to be spoken out loud. That was when she asked me, not with desperation, not with fear, but with a calm honesty that made it impossible to ignore. She asked if she could stay, not just for a few more days, but forever. The question hung in the air, heavier than any storm I had faced before, because saying yes meant risking everything again. It meant opening my heart to the possibility of losing someone all over again. It meant stepping out of the safe, lonely world I had built for myself, but saying no meant going back to that world. And for the first time in years, I realized something. I didn't want to go back. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not just the woman who had knocked on my door in the rain, but the person who had brought light back into a life that had been drowning in darkness. So I said yes. Not because I was sure, but because I was ready to try. Life didn't suddenly become perfect after that. We still had struggles. We still had moments of doubt, moments when the past tried to pull us back, but we faced them together, and that made all the difference. The house is no longer silent. Sometimes when it rains, I stand by the door and remember that night. I remember how close I came to ignoring that knock, how easily I could have stayed in my world of quiet suffering. And I realized that sometimes the biggest changes in our lives don't come from grand decisions. They come from simple moments, like opening a door. Before this story ends, I want you to do one thing. Go down in the comments and tell me where you're watching this from. I'd love to know which country you're in and how far this story has reached. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even in the darkest moments there is still hope, then please take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your support helps keep stories like this alive, and you never know who might need to hear this today, because sometimes all it takes is one knock in the rain to change everything.